Hey, good morning, and welcome to Breakfast with a Heathen. I am your favorite heathen, Mike Smithcall. And if this is your first time at the coming into the show, then welcome. I do appreciate you checking it out. If this is one of your, if you've been here before, this is a round trip for you, then welcome back. I do appreciate that as well. So you kind of know what the deal is, but let me real quickly break it down for the people that are new. This is a very casual, very chill show. So if you tuned in thinking, oh, I'm going to hear an atheist scream and yell at people, no, you're not. That is a different channel. I'm sure there are plenty of those people out there, but it is just not, it's not me. It's not my style. It's not my interest. And quite frankly, that is the least productive conversation I've ever had, is when people start shouting. It just doesn't go anywhere. So the purpose of this channel, the Atheistville channel, that is a YouTube channel, it's a podcast, I have a website, atheistville.com. The purpose of all of those is to just normalize atheism. It's a different belief, or, and I'm going to say belief only because I'm trying to give a perspective. It's a lack of belief technically, but you know where I'm going with this. Meaning there are people that are Jewish. They believe in Judaism. There are people that believe in Islam. They believe in Buddhism and Hindu, Christianity, obviously. And there are people like me who do not believe in any of those in terms of a God. So this is my perspective, and there are people just like me, and we are your neighbors and your coworkers and your boyfriends and girlfriends and all these other things. We're absolutely no different opinions, obviously, but we love our children and we love our cats. We take care of our parents when we can, and we donate clothes to the homeless, and we do all the same things you do. We just don't go to a church or a synagogue or some sort of temple, or a mosque, I guess. That's the main difference. And it really kind of is as simple as that. Are there other things that we are different? Sure, of course, and we can get into those. But my point again is, I just like to normalize this and just let everybody know that we're just like you. We just have a different perspective on religion. That's kind of it. In fact, I'm in a group here in Chicago of atheists, and I always tell people when they're new to the group, don't expect anybody else in the group to agree with you on anything else other than we don't believe that there is a God, or we do not feel that there has been any proof for a God. Don't assume that we all believe in your politics, or don't assume that we all have any other perspective that you may have. Chances are there's probably a pretty decent overlap, but it's not guaranteed. So again, just a normal dude. As you can see, if you're on the video, you can see I'm just a normal guy. And that's where we're starting from. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into a few questions that I have rounded up. That would be good. Oh, you know what? Let me take a real quick sip of my coffee. It is a Sunday morning after all, and this is Breakfast with a Heathen. So get yourself a coffee, get yourself a croissant, whatever, some scrambled eggs, whatever floats your boat on a Sunday morning. So hold on. That's the obligatory that you have to do when you take a sip of coffee. All right, let's start with here. So this is Born Cartoonist 7247. All right. Well, we're starting right out of the bat with this one. Scared I'm going to regret losing my virginity. All right, we're going to start here. I am nearly 29-year-old virgin who has spent all my life waiting for marriage. However, I've decided I no longer want to. I've met this guy, and we have done pretty much everything apart from PIV sex. PIV, penis and vagina, sex. I know that's the next step, but I'm scared I'll regret it and be traumatized because the purity culture runs deep. What should I do? Well, this is fascinating, and I feel a little inadequate answering this because I am a man, and this is a 29-year-old woman. But I'm going to answer it. So I'm going to set aside the gender and the body parts and that sort of thing. And I'm going to say, you're not going to regret it unless you let yourself regret it. And I'm going to see if I can expand on that a little bit, meaning that as I think about this, I got a lot of different thoughts going through my head. So this woman is 29 years old. That is a long time they don't say where they're from. That is a long time in America to be a virgin. Are there virgins that are 29 years old? Sure, of course. Is that normal? No. That's just not normal. It's not that it's abnormal in the sense that she's done anything wrong. It's just not common. Let's say it that way, right? There is very few 29-year-old male or females that are virgins just because of the culture that we grew up in. Even in the purity culture of some groups within the United States, it's still quite uncommon, right? The problem with that, of course, is that they've built this thing up for 29 years, let's just say 10 or 15 years, probably since they were teens, and they've been told they can't have sex until they're married, and all sorts of things are going to happen to them, and yada, yada, yada. They've been told this, and they've built this, and they've accepted this, because as I read them, they're saying they'd be traumatized because of the purity culture. So they've built sex up into more important than it actually is. And I'm not saying sex is not important, but for some cultures that sort of adhere to this purity culture thing, the purity, and this is where it gets very misogynistic, quite frankly. The purity tends to lean much heavier on the woman, on the girl when she was a teen, and now when this woman is a 29-year-old woman. Nobody's really overly concerned about the purity of the man, but they're absolutely obsessed over the purity of the woman. There are no mother-son purity balls. There's no mothers giving purity rings to their sons. Not really. I mean, I'm sure some crazy people do this, but that's not what happens in that culture, right? It's all about keeping the daughter virginal and protected, and the father controls this in some very gross and weird way. So this person has grown up apparently in this type of culture, and they're 29 years old. How they got through their teens and their early 20s without hormones just, wreaking havoc, I don't know, but okay. But now they're 29 and they're wondering, hey, I'm ready. I'm physically ready. I don't know that I'm mentally ready. And I don't have any advice to give her as a woman, but I would say that is 100% in your head. Realize that most of the world has sex. Most of the world has sex, and it's just fine. Your first time may not be the best time. I'm just going to put that out there. But there's nothing wrong with having sex. There really isn't. I mean, you want to take care of yourself, protect yourself. I'm sure at 29 years old, you probably know all those things. You certainly don't want to get pregnant at 29 from your first experience. So take cautions like you should, and like teenagers should, and they often do not. Take those precautions, but let yourself go. Let yourself enjoy the intimacy. Let yourself enjoy the physical connection that you make with your partner. You can choose how involved or how casual that partner is. And I'm trying to say this again as a father. My daughter's 36, so this woman's younger. She's actually between my two kids' age, so she is in my kids' age. I'm trying to give her fatherly advice that I would give to a 28-year-old or 29-year-old. If I had a 29-year-old kid and they asked me this is the advice I would give them. Enjoy it. Be cautious. Take care. Recognize it is something you can do with your body. It can be very pleasurable. It's designed to be pleasurable in the sense that your body is wanting to do this. It helps us keep the species going. So you're fighting that for 29 years. You're fighting something your body's telling you to do. There's nothing wrong with it. You can go out. You can have casual sex if you wanted to. I'm not saying you should or you should not. I'm just saying you could. You can get up the next morning and think, okay, that was fun. Or, it's not quite what I had built it up in my head all these years. That's very likely to happen sometimes. And then realize, maybe I want to try that again. Maybe I want to try that with someone that I like more. Maybe I want to try that with someone I don't really know that well, but I just want to sort of, check that box. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not going to go to hell. It's just that is so ridiculous to me, that the fact that we have tied virginity with going to heaven. But the reality is, across the world, Virginity does not last very long. And when you have given it away, as we say, nothing was actually given. You didn't lose anything. You're not soiled. You literally did not lose anything at all. It's an experience. We don't talk about losing our virginity by riding a bike or bowling or going to a concert. Nobody really talks about that kind of. What's the difference? You had sex. You went into bed with, and this person they're talking about a man. Did they say? Yeah, I met this guy. So that she wants to have sex with a man, and when they're finished, what has she lost? What has she given away? What is she holding on to for 29 years that she's going to lose and doesn't have the following day? There's nothing. Virginity is completely made up in the sense that it's a false construct, right? The next person, the next man that she is with will have zero idea if she's a virgin or not, and that's up to her to share that with him, but there's nothing lost. If I have 10 fingers and I gave up one, you can tell I've got 9 fingers. Virginity, there's nothing really lost there. I mean, we can get into hymen and blah, 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 but let's be real. Reality is it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. So I always feel a little bit bad for people that have been holding on for this for so long because, again, it's probably been built up to a point that it's almost impossible to work out like they said. It's kind of the white knight thing. Like, oh, I'm waiting for this big moment. It's going to be just, champagne and roses and firecrackers and everything's going to go and it's going to be so fantastic. And then it's like, oh, that was kind of okay at best. Okay, have it again. Try it again. Learn something from that person and try it with another person or try it with that person 10, 15 times. It'll all work out. Most people that have sex again because it's kind of fun, right? So, Born Cartoonist 7247. I wish you good luck on that. I really do. Take care of yourself. Don't do anything crazy, but don't feel bad for enjoying the body that you have. And don't feel as a woman that you are giving up anything, that you've submitted to anything. Don't feel bad if you have sexual thoughts or you have, not aggression is not the word I'm looking for, but you have this desire to have sex. That's fine. You're a human being. You're a human being. We all have a desire to have sex. You are no different. You're no worse. You're no better. You're simply like every other man and woman on this planet. So enjoy it. Have a good time. Let us know how it goes. I am absolutely kidding. You don't need to share that. All right. Let's see. What do we got here? The next one. Okay. 444 That's their name. 4 like the letter, or the number, F-O-U-R, then F-O-R, F-O-U-R, and then the word whore. 444 whore. All righty. Honest question. Does anyone actually know somebody who has converted to Christianity as an adult who didn't do something bad they were seeking forgiveness or renewal from? This is very interesting. I just made a video, a week or two ago about this same thing, meaning that nobody seems to convert to Christianity when things are going well, right? And I made a bit of a provocative video on that because it's sort of true, right? Most people, when things are going fantastic, I think the example I used was, if you just won the lottery, you don't generally convert to Christianity right then, right? You just don't. And the example I gave, and I can't remember where I found it now, but someone had sent me something. I can't remember what it was. And then I actually had a comment on one of my videos and they referenced Alice Cooper, the rock star, right? Who's like, 80 years old now. He's an older guy. But he's and he's well known for this. He's a very devout Christian, which is strange because if you know Alice Cooper, he's a very theatrical and gory, and he's always been sort of out there, but he's a devout Christian and has been for many, many decades. And he says, and the woman that, I think it was a woman that sent me this video, or I'm sorry, sent me a comment on the video talking about Alice Cooper, mentioned that he had hit rock bottom and he was an alcoholic and his life was going to hell. And he went back to his faith, the faith that he had had as a child or a young person. And exactly my point. I had made that point, and this person just swoops in and sort of validates it, that Yes, that is exactly where church tends to come in when people are at their lowest. People do not generally convert to, I'm going to say Christianity, but to religion when things are going fantastic. If they're not religious, not that they're not atheists, they're just not overly religious. They don't attend church. Maybe they believe in the back of their mind. They just don't really participate in it. And all of a sudden they win $5 million. They don't go, oh my gosh, I've got to go to church now. That's not how it happens. What happens is they have no money. They file bankruptcy. They're an alcoholic. They're on drugs. They lose a loved one. Something that has pushed them to the point of just no return. They're at their lowest. What swoops in? The church. I find that a bit predatory. I really do. I understand it can give people comfort, but the fact that it doesn't go the other way, the first way that I said, when things are going fantastic, people just do not generally convert. Is someone going to text me or send me a message saying, oh, my uncle did? Okay, fine. I'm not saying out of the 8 billion people it doesn't happen, but I think we all can agree that people are going through some sort of life struggle. That's where the church swoops in, saves them, and I'm using saves with some quotes around it. And then they are converted, right? Then they have accepted Jesus and they do all these things. But again, a little predatory, you know? If you had no money and you were flat broke and you absolutely had to be able to pay the rent so you didn't have to live on the streets, and I come in and I said, you know what? I'll give you the $1,500 at 38% interest. You would think I was a complete predator and an ass, right? Because I saw that you were at your lowest. I saw you had nowhere to turn, and I gouged you at 38% interest on a loan. I would be a jerk for that. I absolutely would. Any word you can come up to call me, I would be absolutely deserving of that. But if I said instead of a 38% loan, I've got Jesus, flipping through my King James Bible with my fingers formerly wrinkled from holy water. If I brought you that Bible and I said, here's how we're going to get out of this, and I come to the church and blah, 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 isn't it kind of the same? I mean, I've fixed your problem, but I swooped in when you were the lowest. Now, the opposite, the Christians and the people like that are going to say, but that's when you accepted. That's when you took Jesus into your heart. Well, that's when you accepted my 38% loan too. You know, and I'm being a little kind of a jerk about this, but it's fairly predatory. And I if you know the example of the opposite, where people were doing really, really well, and because of them doing really, really well, they became devout Christians, okay, send me a comment. I would like to see your logic on that. I just don't see it. So this person, 444 that question is absolutely valid, I think. I think is absolutely a valid question, because that is how I see it as well. I wish it wasn't that case. I really do. What else we got here? Okay, this is Choco Moco SFR. Choco Moco SFR. I have no idea what that means or how to say it. So they believe that God created Adam and Eve, right? And then they had children, and apparently those kids had sex. Their own siblings, and I guess apparently those kids had sex, I assume, with their own siblings and had kids with them. They think the whole human population is the result of incest, ? No, that's not exactly, but it is kind of strange. And I am not a biblical scholar, so take this for what it's worth. But again, I'm sure we could read this in my handy-dandy little book there. But there is a strange disconnect. Everybody that has a casual understanding of Christianity knows that there was Adam and Eve, and they had children. They had Cain and Abel. It's kind of where it stops in terms of people's general understanding. I know there's another child, right? But that's where they kind of stop. And then those sons grew up and got married. Okay. God created two people in the Garden of Eden, and they had these two sons, Cain and Abel, who then got married. It immediately falls off the cliff, doesn't it? Right? I mean, it's a strange story, because if your basic understanding is that God created two people. God didn't create 2,000. God created two people in the Garden of Eden. And we're all traced back to Adam and Eve, except their two sons married two women from the next garden over, I guess, right? So the answer to their question for Choco Moco SFR, it is no, it's not incest, because there were these other available women, and presumably there were other available women for their children, the children of, I guess, what Cain killed Abel. So I don't know if Abel had children, but you get my point. As it starts to branch out, I'm assuming that those children of these various arrangements and marriages found other spouses, and they had children, and it kind of to branch out. It's like Amway in some sort of pyramid scheme, but it doesn't really make any sense. So either the Adam and Eve story, again, as we all generally understand it, that there were these two people and everything spawns from these two people, either that's not true and there was just a handful of people spread out around the world, right? Or we have no idea where these two women came from that married the brothers, and then we have a big flaw. Surprise, surprise, there's a big flaw in the Bible or some sort of large contradiction. I don't know. Again, I'm not a biblical scholar. I don't pretend to be. I don't claim to be. I do not want to be. So if you've got the actual logic, not some sort of crazy preacher man, let me tell you and talk around it in big wide circles. That's a pretty obvious question. Either the only two people on earth were Adam and Eve, and we all trace back to them, boom, or God actually made lots of people, and the only people we happen to talk about are Adam and Eve. Okay, and maybe you'll say Adam and Eve were the first, but not the last that God planted. Well, man, that's like being the fourth guy to walk on the moon. Nobody knows who you are. That's terrible. You walked on the damn moon. If you're the fourth person that God made, man, I mean, yeah, really? Really? We got 8 billion people on the planet, and you just happen to be the fourth person? Don't even know your name. What do you have to do? I mean, you're the fourth person, right? Don't know their name. So I find that a very strange story to me. I mean, I find a lot of these stories very strange, but that's always been a little suspicious of that story. Let's move on. Worldly ad 9213. All right, here we go. What is this one? Hi, everyone. I grew up as a Christian, but I lost my faith. Then turned to Buddhism and Hinduism, and now I've lost my faith in both of those, and I'm agnostic again. Okay, that's interesting. It's interesting because he grew up Christian, tried a couple other things out, and he says he's agnostic again. So I'm assuming in the middle of these three, Christianity, Buddhism, and Hinduism, he was back and forth, maybe thought he was agnostic. Anyways, here we go. And I'm depressed. How do people cope with life being meaningless? Even though I don't believe in God anymore, why do I still have this urge to pray? Sorry for rambling. I just feel lost. Well, worldly ad 9213. There's a lot going on there, man. There's a lot going on there. So let me take your one line here. It says, how do people cope with life being meaningless? So that's a very interesting question that's quite telling. My first question, if I were to talk to this person, would be, why do you think life is meaningless? And I'm being very sincere here, because here's what we hear all the time as atheists. Because we don't believe in God, we have nothing to live for. And it's simply not true. And some of us would say, no, I have nothing to die for. I have my 75, 85 years or whatever I've got on this planet, and that's it. All right? So life is not meaningless. I've got to make meaning of it every single day because I got nowhere to go after it's over, right? So my life is meaningful because I try to make it meaningful. I have a wife. I've got children. I've got friends. I got a cat. I try to do things that are meaningful to me. The lack of God has nothing to do with my life's meaning, because I'm not trying to prop myself up for a next adventure, a next chapter after I die. My meaning for my life has to happen right now. So for this person, worldly ad 9213, your life isn't meaningless, man. It's really not. You're a valuable member of our community of people, of society, of human beings, whatever town you are, the friends that you have, the people that remember you, like, oh man, I remember that person. Remember we were in ninth grade and we did that thing. You're meaningful. You are meaningful from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. Someone somewhere has been thinking about you. Someone right now is remembering a story that you were involved with. Your life has meaning. So take that to heart. You don't need God. You don't need Buddha. You don't need some sort of, what is it, Shiva, right? That Hindu god. You don't need any of these gods to have meaning. Your life is meaningful by itself. So don't let that depress you. And I feel bad for this person because I've seen these kind of questions before, and I've talked to people like this, and I understand it's a real thing. I'm not discounting by any means, but they're trying to wrestle the logic in their mind that says God's not real, and the Bible stories like I just went through with Adam and Eve and Noah and all these sort of silly stories that we hear, those really don't make sense. They're illogical, and this person's kind of realized that, I guess, to some degree. But at the same time, they've probably spent, like most people say in the United States, their entire life being told that there's a God out there. There's somebody out there watching over them or instructing them or giving this ultimatum. If you don't follow whatever rules that God has, then you're going to burn in hell for all eternity. That's a lot to unload and kind of get rid of and move past. So I would say for this person, look for groups like I have here in Chicago, for atheist groups, for humanist groups, things of this nature where you can find other people like this that are going through this journey that you're going through, and rest assured, almost, I'm going to say 100% of the atheists that I've met that started out in some level of religion, either severely religious or like me, very casually religious, none of us ever flipped on a dime. You know, it wasn't a switch that we threw and just one day we didn't believe. No, there might be one day that said, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. But almost always there's a journey, and this person is going through a journey and they're looking for different things. And maybe they'll find it in another religion, and I have no problem with that. It wouldn't be my first choice, but if that works for them, go ahead. But don't lean and use religion as a crutch because you think you need it to have meaning and to have value. It's not true. You have value. And if you were here, I'd give you a hug. And I would tell you, you have value. Just being alive, just being around people and making someone's day a little better and giving a smile to that person, or maybe sending a kind word. In fact, I texted 2 people today that I just knew very casually from a class, and I sent them both a message and say, you guys are the 2 most talented people in this class. I really, really think you guys are fantastic, and you've made me laugh, and I hope that you continue with this class because I think you really have some just innate talent. I've seen these people 6 times, but I wanted them to know that because they added value to my life, and I didn't want to let that pass without returning that favor and saying, you have value. Now, if they find that exciting or if they find that fantastic or they think, oh, okay, that's nice for him to say that, fine. It doesn't matter how much they accept it or not. I wanted them to know that they do have some value. So for this person, worldly ad, you're valuable, man. You really are. And I hope that you come to a point where you believe that. And you don't have to apologize for rambling. I'm going to do rambling all the time. It's kind of my thing. All right, let me take a sip of my coffee real quick. I got to do that every time, don't I? Just that way on the when you're listening to a podcast, for sure that I have actually taken a sip of my coffee. Without it, you'd be completely lost, right? So anyway, Friendly One 4112. How can I know for absolute certainty that God isn't real? Well, you probably can't, but let's go on and let's see what they say here. So my country is becoming a Christian fascist nation. I wonder what country they live in. They said, I'm gay and I fear that I'm going to be persecuted more heavily over the years. I'm terrified of hell. I left religion behind since the Trump administration came about. Yet I still see people asserting that Jesus is real and that I am going to hell. And I hate it. It's terrifying to know that these people exist in such quantities. How can I know with everything that God and hell are not real? Okay, so listen to what this person said. They kind of covered a handful of things here. And you can hear some conflict, right? So let's first thing, they think the country they live in is becoming a Christian fascist nation. Yeah, I would agree with some of that. I don't rail on religion as much as I rail on Christian nationalism. I hate Christian nationalism with an absolute passion. Most of the videos I make and most of the essays that I do are on Christian nationalism because I think it's a scourge and a cancer on our society and our government. That's one thing. But then he says, he's gay and he feels he's going to be persecuted. That's a separate, not unrelated, but a separate issue as well, right? Ever since the Trump administration came in, obviously that makes him probably American. I still see people asserting that Jesus is real, then I'm going to hell. That's a third issue in the sense, just like me as an atheist, people love to tell us that we are going to go to hell, right? There's no hate like Christian love, as they say. I get this all the time. If you're an atheist, you have been told 1,000 times that you're going to hell. Sometimes it's with that southern smile, like that, oh, bless your heart. You know you're going to hell, right? Yeah, and I grew up in the South, so I can do that voice, and I can do the accent, and I can do the eyes and everything else. I get it. Very sweet, very sticky, but you know you're going to hell, right? Yeah, okay, thanks for telling me. I'll add that to my list of problems. This person is gay. They've been told the same thing with that same smile, blah, 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 all right? And it's terrifying to know that these people exist in such quantities. So we're talking about some social issues, right? He's got a social issue with the fascism. He's got a social with the Christian fascism. He's got a social issue with people not liking gay people. He's got a social issue with so many sort of religious people. So that's a social issue, right? Born and motivated through religion, but it's a social issue. But then he asks a philosophical question. How can I know with everything that God and hell are not real? You can't, right? And Richard Dawkins has a scale. I think it's 1 to 7, with 1 being you absolutely know there is a God, and with 7 being you absolutely know there is no God. And I would say if you are a 1 or a 7, how? How do you know that there is not a God? How do you know that there is a God? You can't really know. You can truly believe that, but you can't know it, right? Like I know that this coffee cup in my hand is blue. I know there's coffee in it. I'm feeling it. I see it. I don't have to sense it. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to sort of deduce it from various clues that may or may not make any sense. I can see that coffee cup. I can't see God. I've never seen God. No one I've ever met has seen God. Does that mean he doesn't exist or it doesn't exist? Not necessarily. But the difference between God and Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and the lost city of Atlantis, they're pretty close because we don't know those things exist either. We have no proof of them either. We have stories. We have lore, but that doesn't make it true. By the same token, could there be a Bigfoot out there? Probably not, but could there? I guess. Could there be a Loch Ness Monster? Probably not, but I guess, right? Could there be a dragon lives under my bed or in my garage and his name is Reggie and you can't see him? Maybe. You can't prove that he doesn't exist. So for this person, Friendly One, don't stress over the fact that you can't verify there is no God. That is a trap that a lot of atheists get walked into with religious people because we'll say, well, you need to prove that there's a God because the assertion is by religious people that there is a God. You've asserted that. We simply say as atheists, prove it. Prove to me there's a God. I'm willing to accept your proof, not your lore, not your mythology, your proof. Have God come tell me this. Because until then, I'm not rejecting God. I'm rejecting you, Larry. I'm rejecting you, Linda. Right? You're the one telling me there's a God. There's no God telling me that they exist. You are the one telling me. So I'm rejecting you. And then they always want to turn around. Well, prove there is no God. I can't prove a negative. Again, you can't prove I don't have a fire-breathing dragon in my garage. You can't prove that I don't have one. And every time you go to look, I'm going to say, oh, he works in mysterious ways. He's not there right this moment. But trust me, I've seen him on a piece of toast. It's the same thing. So for this person, don't stress over the fact that you can't prove that there's not, because you're going to stress yourself out for the remainder of your life if you're constantly worried about something that you cannot prove, you can't verify. And if you try to accept it, recognize you're accepting somebody else's opinion on their religion, which they're therefore biased by, and you're stuck with their beliefs. If you want to do that, that's fine. But clearly you have some major social conflicts with that group, right? You don't like the way the country's going in terms of Christian fascism. You're gay and you find that, rightly so in the sense that I agree with you, that there are a lot of religious people that will tell you that you are going to hell for nothing more than existing, right? And it bothers you that there are so many of them out there. We are absolutely outnumbered. You being a gay person, me being an atheist, we are behind enemy lines everywhere we go. That's fine. Carve out your little tribe of people that you feel you can be comfortable with, hang out with them, and ignore the rest. That's what I've had to do. I mean, I grew up in the South as an atheist. Come on. Now, I live in Chicago now, and nobody cares, right? But in the South, they absolutely do care. So, and as you well know, if you're in an area that sounds like you might be, where it's very religious and you're gay, you're going to be always in some level of conflict, right? When my daughter came out, she was like 17, I guess, or so. And I remember at some point early on in her life, maybe not immediately, but I remember telling her quite sincerely, first of all, we didn't care that she came out. We didn't care that she said she was a lesbian. She's 36 years old now. She's been lesbian the whole time. Nobody cared. In terms of her brother, my wife and I, we didn't care. But I told her one time, look, I'm your father. If we're walking down the street, this is in Florida where we lived at the time, if we're walking down the street and someone makes a comment to you about the fact that you're gay, or quite frankly anything, then I'm going to take them out because I'm your father and I'm obligated to do that. And I'm going to want to do that. But I can't fight the world, and neither can you. So you got to pick your battles, right? You have to choose where you want to go with this life, knowing that unfortunately, if you're gay in this environment, you're going to get some pushback. And sometimes that pushback is ugly, and you're welcome to fight it, or you're welcome to ignore it. And you're welcome to choose back and forth between the two. But sometimes it's just, it's just not worth the fight. And I'm saying that as a person who's obviously not gay, but realizing that sometimes there's a big world and you cannot fight everybody. And is this person just being a jerk and kind of an ass and they've made a snide comment? Whatever, dude. Move on, So friendly one, I feel bad for you, brother. I do. I wish it wasn't the case. I wish for you. I wish for my daughter. I wish for all my LGBTQ friends that there wasn't this part of our society or any society, quite frankly. And as a bit of an aside, I asked this question years ago on the YouTube channel. I mean, this is like 7 years ago. Do you know anybody that's homophobic without a religious component? I really don't. There are people that don't like the idea of being gay because they can't see themselves attracted to the same sex. I get that. I understand that it just doesn't appeal to them. And sometimes they take that a little too far. But the pure hatred, the hatred of gay people, that homophobic just outrage over people being in some level of LGBTQ, I've never seen anybody that has that level of hatred that didn't have it as a religious foundation. Putting that out there. If you disagree with me, I'd love to talk to you about that, but I've never seen it. And I've seen a lot of people that hate gay people with a passion, and they're also religious. No hate like Christian love, right? Alrighty, friendly one. Let's skip on. What are we going to talk about next here? This is a question I have as well. This is from Accomplished Box 2547. I don't understand how eternal hell could be fair with quotes around it, for not believing in God. Yeah, I don't know if I need to read the rest of this. Let's see. One of the things I have such a hard time talking to Christians about is the idea of eternal hell. I have been thinking about for several years now, and no matter what way a Christian tries to explain to me, I simply cannot understand why people who just don't believe in Jesus should go to hell forever. I'm with you. I'm 100% with you on that question. I mean, of all the sins, really? Really? And I've made this point on this show and other conversations as well. I could literally kill a busload of nuns, right? And 3 seconds before they put me to death in the gas chamber or wherever, if I said, I accept Jesus into my heart, I'm going straight to heaven because I've accepted Jesus in my heart. But if I'm just walking down the street and I've been a good person and a good husband and father and a good friend and all these other things, and I help the busload of nuns fix their tire, and in the middle of the street, some guy hits me, and on my last 3 seconds of death, someone says, "Are you going to accept Jesus?" I was like, "No, I'm not accepting Jesus. I'm an atheist." Well, I'm going straight to hell. How is that fair? Eternity. Hell for all eternity, only because I didn't worship God or Jesus. Seems very narcissistic, doesn't it? It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. And again, I've been told I'm going to hell 1,000 times. I'll be told 1,000 times again. But that seems a little over the top, doesn't it? It's a little severe. Sometimes the punishment doesn't seem to fit the crime on that one. I'm simply not believing. And again, I'm a good person. I've done good things. I will continue to do good things. That's not enough? Come on, man. Come on. I really doesn't make any sense. So was your name Accomplished Box? I'm 100% with you on that. It's silly to me. You're not going to convince anybody if they're religious, and they're 100% going to assume that you are going to hell because you cannot bring yourself to accept God. Now, keep that in mind. Out of the 8 billion people, there's like 2 or 3 billion that are Christian. I can't remember exactly what the number is, but it's in that range. Majority of the world that means the majority of the world is not Christian. The majority of the world will not accept Jesus. They're all going to hell. So it's going to be a huge party down there. So I'll see you there, bro. All right, let's see. Oh, this is a good one. I read this earlier and I thought, I got to talk about this because I'm going to approach this on 2 different subjects. This is from Cowboy Mac 24. My boss invited me to his church. Already we got problems. Looking for some insight if y'all have one. He did write out the word y'all, so maybe another Southern person. I don't say y'all as much as I did. I've never really said it a lot, but definitely want to hear y'all. It takes me back to growing up in the South. It says, I wasn't raised religious and I'm not religious in my adulthood. I've never read the Bible and I've only attended church for family functions that were held there. I don't know much about religion at all. In fact, I would say I'm pretty ignorant about faiths and their practices. I just label myself as an atheist and keep moving through life. Okay, so they're not, let me just stop there for a second. I'm going to get to their next point. Are they an atheist? I don't know. That's always I find a lot of people have said, sometimes you'll talk to people that are religious and they say, I was an atheist. Well, like this person, were you an atheist because you just never really thought about it? Or were you an atheist like me who has come to that conclusion after thinking about it? And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I don't find a lot of people that have come to the conclusion like I have, where they thought about it, the logic didn't make sense, and they have added it up, and then 2 + 2 does not equal 3. That's my logic, right? I've added this and I've added this. It doesn't make sense to me. I've actively concluded that I'm an atheist. There's a difference between other people that say kind of what this person's saying is, I just don't really know anything about religion. I just never attended it. So I don't know if I really have any strong feelings. Okay. I mean, that's kind of atheist, maybe agnostic, but I'll take their word for it. But I just kind of wanted to address that. But here's where they go. So they say, I'm just an atheist and I keep moving through life. Recently, my boss, here we go, who is a devoted Jehovah's Witness, has been inviting me to meetings at his witness hall. I know nothing factual about this religion other than they don't celebrate holidays. So I guess they go on and say, let's see here. Is this a religion I should stay away from? I take no issue in exploring new things. I have no religious trauma that keeps me from having a new experience. And I've always been under the impression that Jehovah's Witness is cult-like. Take no offense, but I am open to being corrected if that's not the case. So Jehovah's Witness would be an interesting place to start. But here's my other problem with this. This is your boss. Man, that is so wrong on so many levels. And I know I'm speaking from a guy who has worked in large corporate America for most of my adult life. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Your boss, and he keeps saying he keeps inviting him, right? If your boss keeps inviting you to church and you've given any impression that you're not particularly interested, that is an HR violation. You don't sound like the kind of person that you're particularly bothered by it. And I wouldn't be bothered by it if someone asked me or even told me, hey, I'm doing something at my church. You guys are welcome to come. If I said, oh, that's fantastic. Hey, thanks for inviting me. But, it's just really not my thing. But I hope you have a great time. And if we left it at that, it wouldn't bother me at all. I am not that guy who freaks out because someone mentions religion or wears a cross or anything else, because I don't care. Because it's most of the world believes in something like that. It would not bother me. But if they kept saying it over and over again, hey, don't forget we're doing this thing on Sunday. Hey, don't forget we're having a prayer breakfast. Hey, don't forget we're doing. Okay, calm down, dude. Chill, right? This is not my thing. And now we're getting into a territory where I'm starting to feel that if I don't participate in your church as your employee, there could be some ramifications, and I would not take that well at all. So for this person, I'm giving you kind of two sides of this piece of advice here. One is be aware how this person is interacting with you. If you're cool with it, that's fine, but just keep an eye open to make sure that they don't see your atheism or your proclaimed atheism and your lack of attention to church or God or Jesus in this case, because they're a Jehovah's Witness, they don't see that as somehow a negative and it reflects negatively on you in the workplace. Just be aware of that. I'm not saying this person is doing that. I'm not saying you're bothered by this, but be aware of it because it would not be the first time. Okay? So keep that in mind. Second thing, check it out, man. Go to the church with them. If you're not offended by that, go to church. Check it out. I would. I have no great desire to go, but if someone invited me, I would go for the experience alone. When my daughter was a teenager, I guess early teens, middle school, her friend got bat mitzvahed, and I went. I took her and I stayed because I had never been to any kind of Jewish service, and I was just very curious about it. Okay, experience, check that off the box, I've been to a Mormon church. I've talked to the elders and I've talked to kids, what do you call them when they were doing their mission work? Missionaries. I feel like I've been to a Mormon church. We used to live in Salt Lake City, and trust me, I did avoid it because it's kind of everywhere, but I've been to one. I've certainly been to Catholic. I've been to Episcopal. I've been to Southern Baptist. Trying to think if I've been to anything else. Not off the top of my head, but there might be one or two out there. I would go to all of them at some point just for the hell of it, right? I'm not going there to try to believe. I'm not there trying to cause trouble either. I'm just one of these people like, oh, I'm interested in learning. Now, am I going to spend a lot of time trying to track all these churches down? No, I don't care. But if someone asked me, I might, and catch me on the right day, I might go. So I'm telling this person here, Cowboy Mac, go. Go with an open mind. If you turn out that you find that is interesting to you or it offers you something, more power to you, man. I have no problem people doing it. Just keep an open mind. Keep an open mind. And at the same time, keep an open mind that everybody's going to be very friendly. They're going to be very inviting. They're going to give you all this great love, and they're going to suck you into the group. So be open-minded. They're also doing that for a reason as well. They may be genuine, but there's also a weird, genuine agenda there sometimes that I'm not even sure that people always realize that's what they're doing, but that's what they're doing, right? They'll suck you in with that. But yeah, man, check it out. If anything, you'll learn a little bit about that religion, and the next time someone approaches you about Jehovah's Witness, or they stop you at a restaurant or something. I remember a woman stopped me one time in a McDonald's, and she slid over into the booth that I was in. And I was like, okay, what are we doing here? And she slid over and she just said something random. I can't remember what it was. But it was like a social comment on something. Oh, can you believe the news or something like that? And I was like, no, yes, what are we doing here? It's a McDonald's. Why are you talking to me? And then boom, 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 boom. Here we are now. Oh, and by the way, I'm a Jehovah's Witness. I'd love to give you this little tract. Okay. Alrighty. And I remember telling her, would it be surprising? Because we had this like little 5-minute conversation. We were very pleasant. She was an older woman. We're talking back and forth. And I said, would it be surprising if I told you I was an atheist? It did sort of shut it down. So like, it went back to my chicken McNuggets, but it was fun. But so go to that church, see what it's like. Check it out. Let's see. Oh, this is weird. This is working at an Arby's. I think I talked about this. It was just so familiar to me. I'm pretty sure I talked about this on an earlier one of these calls. Call? Is that the right word? One of these shows. Working at an Arby's is the guy's name. And he says this, and this was like caught my eye. He says, hello. A few months ago, I made a post asking if revoking your church membership was always so complicated. What? Why would it be complicated? I wanted to update y'all. Oh, another one of the Southerners. I wanted to update y'all on how that process went. So he says in November, I switch my screen here. In November, I had to write the elders of the church explaining why I wanted to revoke my church membership. I stated that I was moving soon, which is true, and that was the only reasoning I gave. At the time, I didn't want to say that I was losing faith because I didn't want to get into an argument. But during this time, my absence from attending church services was acknowledged by the pastor and the elders and would later come back to bite me. Okay, now I'm invested in this story. Anyways, I was told, and this is the part that kills me. Anyway, I was told that my membership was to be voted on in January. The day passed, and I was then informed that my resignation was declined. Okay? My resignation was declined by the elder council because of the part of Hebrews 13:17, which says church leaders' work is to watch over your souls, and they are accountable to God. Because I haven't been showing up to church, they began to suspect that I may have been walking away from the faith, which by this time was true. In late November, I pretty much stopped calling myself a Christian and trying to make the faith work for me. So when the elders voted to see if the vote would move to the members, it didn't pass because half of them were afraid that I was truly walking away from the faith, and they didn't do anything to help that. They would be held accountable to God for my lack of faith when they die. What? I do remember this. Again, I can't remember if I commented on this show earlier. I did not know you have to get voted off of members. I don't even know what that means. Don't you just stop going? And they're using the word elders. The only time I use the word elders is with Mormons, so I don't know if I'm just using that. I don't know if that means they are Mormon. But if you're out there and you're familiar with the term elder and elder council and being voted in and out of membership, explain this to me. This is actually brand new to me, and I remember this guy's earlier comment when he said this is November, so this is like this is February, so it's 4 months ago. And I was confused then. I'm confused now because they said, no, you can't leave the church. I don't even know what that really means, though. I mean, obviously I can leave the church. I just won't ever come back. It's like, a gym membership. You're not paying, they're not charging you dues. So first of all, I don't really know why they want to be removed from membership or not. I mean, what does it actually matter? Again, as long as you're not losing anything, and he says he's moving. So what does that even mean? But then for them to turn around and say, no, we can't let you not be a member. I'm very confused by this. I really, if someone knows the answer to this, I'm genuinely very curious. Please let me know how that process works, because it is just so foreign to me that I can't do it. I just don't get it. All right, here. Let's see. We're right about time. So let me see. I'll take two quick ones here. This is from Umbral Rose 35. What is it with conservative religions and clubbing? Now, when I first read that, I first thought they meant like with a club. Like, oh boy, what kind of religion are you part of where they're beating you with a club? Nope, they meant clubbing like down at the club, It says, they say, it seems that conservative religions tend to see nightclubs as places where people go purely to hook up, do drugs, and get drunk. Although I don't deny that those things happen, because they do. I am sure they do. It's not like there's cocaine distribution counters and dance floor orgies. Well, what kind of club have you been to? Speak for yourself. A lot of people who go to nightclubs do go to sing and dance and just socialize. So I always find it weird and paranoid that conservative religions vilify people who like to go clubbing as if they are living a sinful life. This is just me, though. So yeah, this is very interesting. In fact, I'm sure everybody remembers Footloose, right? You weren't allowed to dance. That was the whole point of that movie, because that little small religious town they lived in, dancing was forbidden. So you can imagine going clubbing. But this is actually very common. And I say it's common. It's common where I grew up in the South. I'm going to give a very old reference, which shows how old I am. I went to a Rick Springfield concert. So if you're old enough to know who Rick Springfield, Jesse's Girl, fantastic song. He was huge in the 80s, right? I guess into maybe the early 90s, but that was when it was his heyday. So I went to a Rick Springfield concert in Jacksonville, Florida, where I grew up. And I remember, now I was a metalhead, but it was also a pop person. I mean, I liked every kind of music. The 80s was wild with music, man. We had metal, like Motley Crue and all this kind of stuff. Then we had like the hair bands, like the Poisons and the Bon Jovis. Then we had the Rick Springfield and John Mellencamp. And then we had Run DMC. And then later on, NWA, the 90s. I mean, it was a wild time for music. Everything was happening. And I was kind of into all of it. So I went to a Rick Springfield concert by myself, as I recall. And I remember it was starting to rain. It was an outdoor concert. So he's going to be on an outdoor stage. It was starting to rain. This is Florida. This happens all the damn time. So we're all kind of staying there, and they're waiting for the rain to maybe subside so they can do the concert or not. Turned out they actually canceled it, and I never did see Rick Springfield. But while we're standing there, there's a guy with a life-size 10-foot cross that he is carrying over his shoulder, Jesus style, so to speak. And he's going up and down basically the rows of people that are standing outside, milling about in front of the entrance to this outdoor event, preaching the word. And I absolutely remember, dude, this is a Rick Springfield concert. This isn't Ozzy Osbourne. This isn't Motley Crue. It's not Ronnie James Dio. This is Rick Springfield. What? What are you doing? Why are you here? Why are you carrying a cross trying to preach to all of us sinners going to see Rick Springfield? I mean, what? So yeah, it's this person does kind of betray both sides of it. They do say, yes, of course, there are people at clubs that are doing drugs and they are there to hook up and they are getting drunk. Absolutely. Is it a hotbed of absolute sin? No. So maybe if you're compelled to save souls, you're going to go where there's definitely some need as you would see it. I mean, I guess that makes sense. I always wonder though, why? Why? How much do you get? I remember that guy again. I remember it so clearly because I was so struck by what an odd place to do your preaching. Did he get anybody? I mean, it's very performative. And you're walking around with this cross that you built in your shop, and it was on wheels because he had to drag it, right? So he's got little wheels hooked to the back, and he's dragging this stupid cross around, and he's trying to save our souls. Did it work? Did you get one soul? And I'm sure if you ask a person like that, they think, well, if I only get one, then it's been a success. Okay, all right, whatever, man. There's a guy that's on State Street here in Chicago. Everybody knows him. Older man, always well-dressed. He's there with his microphone and his little amp speaker or whatever, and he just preaches. Like a weird OCD, he just preaches. I don't know if he talks to anybody. He just blah, 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 just all freaking day. He's on State Street all the time. He's been there for years. I haven't been down there lately, so maybe he's still there or not, but he was there for years. Everybody knows who this guy is. Does he ever get anybody? Does anyone ever come out of a Abercrombie and Fitch or whatever the hell's down there and say, oh my God, I'm so happy you're here. Convert me. No, probably not. I have a letter someplace, or I got a letter one time at my apartment in San Diego, handwritten letter from someone in the Jehovah's Witness, letting me know that, hey, God's available in case I need to talk. A handwritten letter. I mean, clearly it was handwritten. I just picture there's some woman, because it was from a woman, sitting in her kitchen, handwriting hundreds of letters. Boy, that is go work at a soup kitchen, go help burn victims in a children's hospital. Sitting there writing handwritten letters or carrying a cross up and down a Rick Springfield concert? Come on, man. There's got to be a better use of your life and a more productive use of your life that actually would help people. Not trying to disrupt my Jesse's girl. Come on, man. All right, let's do one more, and then I'm going to run. Give you back your rest of your day here. And I saved this one because I thought this is so true. Would you join a religion where they celebrated the torture and death of their God? What if they sang songs about the pain and the suffering and about the blood? Would you join them as they enacted drinking his blood and eating his flesh? Would you be inspired by them wearing symbols of the torture apparatus around their necks? Would you support the highest achievement in this religion was accepting and believing it rather than honesty, decency, compassion, or simply being a good person? And it's actually kind of funny because we're so familiar with that story that it seems normal, but in any other context, you would run as fast as you can the opposite direction. And in fact, if I said that now about someone that wasn't Jesus, you'd run in the opposite direction. True believers would run in the opposite direction because it's creepy as hell, right? I mean, it's torture. It's a blood cult, right? In the sense that that's the whole point of this. People are bathed in the blood. I've had people tell me, I'm bathed in the blood. What? What kind of imagery is that? You're bathed in the blood. First of all, what? And yes, you're talking about a torture device. I think there was it Mitch Hedberg? Maybe Mitch Hedberg. I can't remember who it was now. One of the comedians is like, it'd be like JFK coming back and everybody's got sniper rifles on their necklaces, right? I mean, come on. This is a creepy thing when you set aside the fact that we're familiar with it for 2,000 years. It's creepy. It's weird. It's very weird. And in no other context would that be acceptable. People would not let their children go see a movie that has that level of violence in it, but they'll go on Sunday and talk all about it. It's very strange. So who was this person's name? Magpie Crystal. All right, Magpie Crystal. Yeah, 100%. 100%. I would not join that religion that told me that I need to celebrate the torture and the death of their God. And I wouldn't sing songs about the suffering and about the blood. And I wouldn't join them in pretending to drink blood and eat flesh. Sounds like some sort of evil, serial killer convention. No, I wouldn't do that either. So Magpie, I'm assuming you don't do it either. I don't do it, and I'm hoping most of you out there watching and listening, you don't do it either. It's very weird, or at least think about that for a moment and recognize it's weird. You might like it. It might work for you in your life, but it's weird. Anyways. Again, this is Mike. My name is Mike Smithgall. This is the Breakfast with a Heathen. And make sure you check us out. The YouTube channel is Atheistville, as is the website, atheistville.com. Drop me a note if you have a question or a comment or you disagree or agree. I actually read every one of the comments because as long as you're civil, I will absolutely respond to you civilly as well. I have no problem talking. I don't like to interact with people that are just being jerks. If you're being a jerk for jerk's sake, save it. Call somebody else, man. Join their show or whatever. But if you have a question or you just dispute it, that's fine. I'll chat with you until the point where we're like, okay, we agree to disagree. That's fine. We can still be buddies. All right. You guys have the rest of your day. Have a great rest of your day and have a great rest of your week. Take care.